So I thought I'd continue, because it's a quiet day today. It's Friday the 17th of December 2021, and I am reading of a story, a book which I started 15 years ago in November 2006, and it hasn't even been published, but I just felt like reading it aloud because it seems appropriate for the times. The title of the book is Bliss After Life. This is book 1, and I'm continuing with chapter 4, which is entitled Suzanne. Suzanne is one of the other daughters of Bliss. 2 of them she had. Suzanne. Susan was really fed up. Bureaucracy was something she hated, but it took up such a large part in her life. She had been running this refuge for 15 years, and even though it gave her great satisfaction, today the negative side seems to overwhelm her. This was such a vital service. We are supposed to be so civilized. Bollocks. All a load of bollocks. There are too many desperate women here at the moment. Money is so tight, and I am fed up with begging. Suddenly she had to laugh to herself. The party yesterday at her mother's house had been great. Her mum could be such a hoot. 95 she was, and had no problems behaving like a youngsters. She must be the only 95-year-old who still loves a joint. Although she rarely did nowadays. She remembers her smoking a little many evenings when she came home with a cup of tea to wind down. When Dad was still alive, they both called it their little vice. Susan missed him. Never mind, he's in a happy place, Mum used to say. She got over his death so quickly. But then she always had her own philosophy. Dad always thought her too spiritual, and it was all a lot of nonsense. Although he was always a little scared to proclaim this loudly to Mum. They always had such heated discussion about this kind of thing. Susan remembers one week just before he died, they ended up laughing and decided to accept each other's differences. She supposed that after almost 60 years together, that was something they had learned to do. She wished she'd managed to get this kind of deep understanding with Steve. Better not start thinking in that direction. She picked up her bag. The phone rang. Blast, it's after 6, and she really wanted to finish early today. Susan Mayland. Hello, what is this? Is this you, Holly? Can you come right away? Her blood ran cold. She never knew what this expression actually meant, but she suddenly felt it. What is it? Don't bloody scare me like this. What's the matter? Have you been crying? It's Mum. And she knew right away what it was. Chapter 5. Mum is gone. The flat was quieter than Holly had ever felt it, and a deep sense of foreboding filled her when she called Mumsy. No reply, she felt all cold. She went into the lovely living room, normally such a light and airy place with a fantastic view. It seemed gloomy now. I like a view, I do, Mum always used to say, wherever she went. It was a nice place, her mum never missed to point it out. Look up, how pretty, she always went on about it. Dad often walked looking down, talking. She made him look up, and she would often just get a yes. That's nice. What I was saying is that this kind of indecision in the government is totally predictable. Always politics. He was a news junkie, as he called himself. What was she doing just standing here thinking? She was prevaricating. I know Mum has gone. I can see the back of her head. She still had brown hair. The one thing she was funny about. No grey for me, thank you very much. Holly walked around to face her. To face her body, she corrected herself. Mum had gone. Her face was utterly peaceful and very pale. She was never pale when she was alive. She held her lifeless hand and stroked her hair. She knows she had been ready to go. They had actually talked about death many times over many years. Holly remembers having conversations with her when she was 9. Still, She could feel tears streaming down her face. What the fuck am I supposed to do without you, Mumsy? The moonlight streamed into the room and Holly suddenly had a feeling of utter peace and understanding. All will be well. Yes. She can even now hear her mother saying it, one of her favorite phrases. I shall need to phone Sue. She needs to know. I need her here. Chapter 6. Susan and Holly. The drive to her mum's took Susan well over an hour from London. She had tried not to panic. There's nothing to panic about. She's already dead. You're a long time dead. What a silly thought. At a time like this, she gets ridiculous thoughts. Just drive, she told herself. Mum loved this drive. Mum, where are you now? It used to be such an important part of your life, this searching for truth. What is it all about? You used to love discussing it. She got worse when she got older. Susan smiled to herself. When she got older and retired, she spent a lot of her time researching the afterlife. She loved to talk about the spirit. Keep your spirits up. She loved creating atmospheres. She always said that she wasn't good at anything else. That was rubbish, really. She had been quite a successful businesswoman. She worked until she was in her 70s, always traveling, trading, selling. But the last 20 years, her and Dad really enjoyed time. Although Mum always found things to do, things to get involved in more like. Finally, she parked the car and ran up the stairs. Holly opened the door and they just fell into each other's arms, crying. Holly led her into the living room. She had put lots of candles on and some quiet music. Have you phoned anyone yet? An ambulance? No. I just wanted a peaceful time with her. I have been sitting here talking to her in my head. Did she answer? We smiled at each other. I don't know, to be honest. It has been lovely here in a strange way. The moonlight streamed through the window and I imagined I felt her presence. But maybe that is just what I wanted to feel. What do you think? Give me a minute. I have to catch my breath. God, I forget I'm nearly 60, bloody old body. I bet that's one thing Mum's glad about leaving behind. We laughed. In fact, we started to laugh almost hysterically. What's the matter with us? Susan gasped between shrieks of laughter. I can't believe I'm having the giggles with Mumsy lying here. Sitting. Laughter again. Suddenly, we stopped both abruptly because the doorbell had rang. God, who's that? I hope whoever it is didn't hear us laughing so loud. What must they think of us? Hi, Roger. What are you two doing here already again? I only saw you yesterday. I thought you went back home, Susan. Did you stay over? I wanted to invite your mum for a walk along the cliff and a cup of tea tomorrow morning. Is she okay? Roger was a neighbour from downstairs, a really nice guy. His wife was recovering from a hip operation and Mum used to spend quite a lot of time with them. They were younger than her, but then most people were younger than Mum. She died, Roger, last night. Come in. I think. He followed her hesitantly. Blimey, this looks like a church. Oh, Bliss. How peaceful she looks. He looked down at his old friend, Bliss Mayland, regret overwhelming him. His eyes filled. He kneeled down to look at her. She looks utterly at peace. Yes, we both thought that. She's gone. I suppose it must have been last night. Late. I think I better phone an ambulance now. Let's sit down for a bit. Why don't you get Christine? I'm sure she would want to be here too. Roger got up to fetch his wife. Her and Bliss were firm friends. Christine was just the kind of person Bliss had loved in her life. Interesting, funny, and totally honest. Chris will miss her, he thought. I will miss her. Chapter 7. Bliss discovers. We were still floating along. Actually, floating is not right, because we were definitely going somewhere specific. My feel of anticipation increased and I started to feel like laughing. There ahead I could feel a wonderful sight. A bright, warm glow seemed to beckon me. When I got closer I recognized individual beings, although All I could really see were lights of different colours, or shades really, as it was overall a slightly bluish light with yellow edges. And now I'm close, I can see who it is. Patricia, it is you. I had been close friends with her. She had gone at least 8 years ago. We were friends for over 40 years. We both loved going to meditation retreats, and we kept up regular contact, even when we moved further apart. Of course it is me, darling. We always knew we were part of the same group, didn't we? And yes, by the way, I was indeed a princess, but that was a very long time ago. Egypt, I bloody knew it, even last time round. We smiled and embraced. It all happened in my mind. Everybody claps, and I get a chance to look around. My lovely group is here. There is such a joyous reunion. I feel so happy to be here. Everybody moves into a circle, and I'm staying in the middle to receive all the attention. There is Bob and David, my really good friend Christina, who I missed terribly when she passed away 20 years ago. Titian, I just remember, he was my boss many years ago. I always felt quite connected to him. This is a special moment. Let us reconnect. Peter directed the group closer, and I breathed in deeply. Yes, I reconnect. Let's reconnect. And I could feel my soul becoming complete once again. Time disappeared. Chapter 8. Getting to grips. The ambulance had been and gone. Everyone had come. Holly's son, Tony, and Chris, her husband. Susan's son, Ben. She was divorced, but Steve had been informed. He had been close to Bliss, despite the divorce. Roger and Christine were making tea. Everybody was painfully aware that only 24 hours ago they had all laughed and joked in the same place here, deciding that they could no longer honor every year with a candle, and that it had to be one for every decade, otherwise the cake would go up in flames, or be inedible at the very least. Now they had to start living without her. Just another page in the Book of Life, but it felt very significant. It was difficult, they found, to have this significance happening without any big happening. It just was. Bliss had gone, and that was that. Go on living. For Holly, this more than anything made her more sure that life was not simply an existence of a number of years, 95 in her mother's case. She felt quite sure that this simply could not be it. She was the last one left in the flat after a tearful goodbye from everyone. No one quite wanted to leave, it just seemed too final. But of course, this is what death is to all of us, final in our present existence. She sat down and simply cried, thinking of all the lovely things which reminded her of her mum. What was it that made her special to her and to the lovely people who were close to her? She decided to honor her just by herself in a special way which only her mum would understand. She rummaged in her mum's CDs collection. Surely it had to be here somewhere. Oh yes, it was, an old copy of River of Life, the CD which had been Holly's ever since she was a little girl. Her mum had made it her relaxation CD, which was put on if one needed a little quiet time of reflection and relaxation. Holly smiled. She remembered lying between her mum's leg on the bed, all comfy, with candles and receiving Reiki, an ancient Japanese healing through hands technique which her mum had learned many years ago when the granddad was ill and mum decided she needed extra energy. Her mum used to touch her head very gently in the prescribed fashion, and they just used to relax together. Holly always dropped off to sleep eventually, and only vaguely felt her mother leaving the bed to join her dad. Usually she woke up full of beans and decided every time that she was going to ask her mum to do this more often. But time was generally too short, and somehow they only did it when matters were urgent, like when she suffered from a miscarriage years ago and through any major difficulties. Anyhow, they did so. They did do it sometimes, and she just felt like putting the music on, because this more than anything would connect her to her mum. So that was the ending of chapter 8. These are short chapters I wrote, and I will continue another time. Bye bye.